All right, everybody. Welcome back to the show. We have an absolute legend on the podcast, and also another person who has a podcast. So we got Todd Richards on the show. How you doing, boss?
Who doesn't have a podcast? It's just
Seriously.
like there's no more magazines. Like there's only so much Instagram bandwidth. Like that's the only way that you can stay relevant. Like you have to have a podcast.
And it's just way better. I love listening. I used to listen to this same like Dr. Dre CD on loop, driving it. And then one day, like 2016, I started listening to podcasts and I was like, whoa, these are like way sicker when you're on a long drive than listening to the same shitty album on repeat. Like it's the best.
What kind of podcasts do you listen to? I mean, you're supposed to ask questions, but we're gonna have a banter here. Like what do you listen to? Like what kind of stuff?
I seriously go on to Google and whatever my exact feeling is, and I search that. So I'll search like, girlfriend might leave me because I am shitty. And then I'll find a podcast on that. And it's
like that's oddly specific
criticism. No, not like, but like anything, like,
right.
Like feeling blue. I don't know, or not even something like totally different. Like, I like history a lot. So if you just type in history, I mean, I don't know. I really like World War II. Those kind of like weird battles. I really like, I like history. So those are kind of like my favorite. Or there's another one that's called like How It's Made and stuff, which is pretty cool. And then there's the classic ones that I listen to, like everyone, like The Bomb Hole. And there's one in Canada called The Bunt that I listen to. And if my favorite skateboarder ever is on like the 9 Club, I'll listen to it. But I don't listen to that. I'm not that avid on the sports podcast as much as I am on the I'm a variety man. And I listen to Bitcoin podcasts.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like it's like I was really into, it's obvious like when you're driving somewhere, like for a while, I just started to kind of listen to music again. Because it was like I was just listening to podcasts all the time, and like I just hate all new music, so it's like it was just void. So I was like listening to like these podcasts about like Bigfoot and like and like nerdy dudes talking about movies that I like, and like there was this whole podcast series on these guys dissecting the movie Blade Runner, and it was like if anyone else had like listened to it, they would have been like, what is wrong with you? But I'm 3 hours later, I'm like, oh, where am I?
I know like, everything it's about great. Blade Runner.
Yeah, it's time travel. I'm just a nerd. Like at heart, I'm just super geek. So that's the kind of thing that makes me happy.
I mean, there's no hiding your geekiness. Or I mean, you love Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Yeah, is it? I mean, I don't even know. It used to be like it wasn't cool, but it's not like it's cool, but it's just like socially accepted a lot more now than it was.
It's kind of like having like a Joy Division t-shirt or something like that, you know what I mean? It's just like I feel like if you went to a party where there was like 18 to 22-year-old girls, one of them would have like a faded Star Wars t-shirt. Hell, I bought my girlfriend 2 Star Wars t-shirts that are like vintage from Winnipeg. Just that's because I grew up. My dad liked Star Wars, and we had 4, 5, and 6, the trilogy on VHS. So whenever I was homesick and I was missing school, 4, 5, and 6 would be on loop. Like like Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. I used to watch those like anytime I had 8 hours of time. I'm like, boom.
Yeah, it is funny the way that you say that. It's like the vintage like. It's like I just look through my closet of like stuff I've collected over the years. Like, you have those t-shirts that like, I don't like, this is really boxy and it's kind of uncomfortable, but like, I'm not going to get rid of it because I really like, it means something to me, but I won't wear it, but I'm not going to give it to you. It's like,
oh, I'm on the exact same wavelength. I'm paying for a storage unit right now. And all it is like old t-shirts, like, Browner was DJing at a nightclub and he gave me his t-shirt and I was like, what? This is Chris Brown. And this is like when I was a kid. So like to me, I was like, what? And like always kept that t-shirt, or like the first, like I have like an old, all my first sponsors, and like you were saying about the box fit, they all fit terribly and stuff, but each one of them has like this, like, it represents something to me. And I'm assuming some of your shirts are like, damn, like, this is the day that Jamie Lynn gave me a t-shirt, or Brian Iguchi or something like that. And you're like, I gotta keep this.
It's funny, like just today, like about an hour before we started doing this, I have the same deal. I have a storage unit that's just full of like shit I refuse to get rid of. And for no reason other than I'm just stubborn and
like mascot things and
just
stuff.
dumb stuff. And
wheelchair from Oak Cold. Just like,
I wish I had that. So I have this big box of like old Quicksilver outerwear, and I've been riding for them since I think 2000, like maybe even 99. So it's just like this gamut through like all the 2000s up until now, like, you know, all the different eras. And I mean, you know how it is now, like on the hill, like kids, especially in Utah, kids are not ironically wearing old shit. Like they're wearing special blend gear. They're wearing bigger old pants. And I pulled this stuff out, and I have this text chain with like Noah Peterson and Harrison Gordon and Brian Fox and Griffin Siebert, like all the Quickie bros. And I laid out all these outfits. I'm like, oh yeah, Mammy Swag is stoked on this. And it's like, and it was funny because we went to the Holy Bully event at Hood last month, whatever. And Noah Peterson was wearing like some old ass Quicksilver pants that were like,
you actually remember getting them?
Well, I think they were like my model pant. And I'm looking at this kid and I'm like, holy shit, I have a jacket that matches those pants. Like, and it was just so weird. It's really strange to me that all that shit that we thought was gone is back. And it's like from like Star Wars to freaking big pants, like oversized pants, wearing jeans on the hill. Like, you know, everyone's
baseball hat. No one's wearing, like, there's tons of kids now, as soon as it's warm enough, they're just wearing a baseball hat up there, like they're filming for TB2 or something like that.
It's pretty funny. Like the baseball hat thing is incredible, because I remember, do you remember Stevie Alters? Remember who that was? Okay, so Alters' whole thing was he would wear a baseball hat on forward, that, you know, with the cap facing forwards, and he would say, if it blows off, I'm riding too fast. Like, so it was his speed gauge of like cruising around and just like, you know, jibbing off of things and like little side hits and, you know, kind of like good snowboard parks.
I'm guilty of it though. I just bought like a month ago an old Trans World sweater from like Japan, and it was 1994 Trans World sweater.
Like the multicolor.
It says I'll show you after. It's got like this circle patch, and it like really sharp. It's like TW snow.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, like I remember seeing that like in, you know, credits of movies, and I was like, I gotta buy it. And I was like, and the other day I posted on my podcast this old Forum sweater that Vintage Sponsor shared for $70, and my friend's like, I'm DMing him, I'm buying this right now.
Dude,
and I'm like,
that guy is like on to something. And I was talking to Fox about it the other day. I'm like, dude, this dude is selling old Quicksilver pants for like $60. I'm like, we're gonna be rich. Like, we need to go back into our closets and pull out all this shit. And it's like, you know, between that and old special blend gear and just like,
you're sitting on a gold mine, dude. You have you literally have a box of Star Wars action, especially if you have like, if they're remotely new or well taken care of. Like, if you have special blend stuff, like kids pay big money for that. Dude, I actually buy Billabong. My team manager, Risto Scott, who I'm sure you met or whatever, you remember probably boarding and doing events with him. My team manager actually he didn't give me shit, but he's like, yo, like when you're riding the hill, like I know you like buying old vintage Billabong stuff. He's like, but you gotta wear the stuff that we're gonna sell next year. And I'm like, dude, but this old like Noah Slasnik hoodie fits so good.
You're like, I'm trying to change. You know, there's got to be like people in, you know, in the marketing department or in, you know, I'm pretty sure it's happening at Quick right now, where they're having a full come to Jesus moment, being like, we've made the best Gore-Tex outerwear. We've taken 25 years to get to this point, and these motherfuckers are wearing jeans on the hill. What is happening over here? Like, I know that that's happening, It's kind of rad. I do dig it. I've always been more along the lines of like, I like my pants a little bit bigger, just, coming from that era. And I'm like stoked. And I'm just like, what am I going to see this year? What am I going to see on the hill this year?
You've been through, I would say, 4 generations of snowboarders. And there's probably like the fifth was just before you. And to see the style every 5 to 10 years really shift.
Mm-hmm.
I remember 10 years ago being a part of the crazy Tech 9 baggy pants, Super Mario Brother t-shirts.
Yeah.
That are
but
like
that's when it's
triple XL
split.
And the bandanas
Yeah.
and stuff and the big high reservoir, or you were the opposite and you were at Bear Mountain and you had feathers in your hair and like you looked like a gypsy.
You're either like you were following John Cooley or you were just like
Chris Bradshaw or something.
Yeah, just like this full V in the road. But now it seems like it's interesting time in snowboarding because I feel like anything freaking goes. Like, it's funny because snowboarding was so going along this trajectory of like Rice and and Bodie and all these dudes that were basically like Dan Breezy, like stunt boarding. Like, not a lot of people are stepping to this shit. It's not enjoyable. Like, it's like going to war every single day. To now, it's like Mike Rav, where you can like roll around in the snow and like just jump off of things and that's to me that like it's rad, number one, because I don't want to freaking get broke off doing something that I shouldn't be doing, that I get peer pressured into by some assholes that I go and travel with.
Brian Fox.
I want to go and have, exactly. I just want to go and have a good time and like, just, kind of do what I can do. And it just seems like snowboarding is in a place right now where it is fully accepting of the gnarliest of the gnar. Totally. And the dudes that just want to like the Yagoons, like they blow my mind. Like, I think those guys are on to something.
And they're riding flat bars, boxes, and culverts. And it doesn't, I like that you threw Mike Rav into the mix there. It really doesn't matter. As long as you have a tasteful approach to riding your niche and you excel at that niche, every niche that you could break it down to, is a respected avenue. You can be the carving guy. Like Japan right now, I feel like whenever I'm in Japan, it's like the big thing there. If you're not doing the opposite of like Kazu, Shuhei, and Kohei, like, like steezy Japanese jumper guys that always, but there's like it's just carving.
There's dudes that are just blading around the hill. Yeah.
Just massive, crazy boards carving around the hill. And everybody there looks like they're on a longboard surfing the coolest wave of their life. And it's so sick.
It is. It's really cool. And it's, like you were saying, like I've been through all these generations of kind of like snowboarding and snowboarding fashion and like what the trends are. Like in the beginning, like in, I guess, 84, 85 up until like 90, it was like there wasn't really fashion. It was like whatever I can get that works. You know what I mean? From like there wasn't like Burton had clothing that kind of was in their catalog, and there was like maybe a couple other brands that did clothing, but like for the average bro, it was like whatever works. Like these old CB pants that my dad has, like I'll just wear these, like, and it's almost like it's kind of come back to that. Like it's so weird.
I just had Gigi on the podcast, and he was telling me that the first pair of boots he got, because after he was done with the hard racers, where he just walked up into his attic and he just found a pair of boots, and he's like, I guess these are my boots. I don't want to wear those anymore.
That's killer. And it's funny that you say that boots, because like I hate new snowboard boots. I hate the trend that's one thing I haven't seen really move in the direction that I'd be hyped on. Is I still feel like snowboard boots are so flipping stiff. Like, have
you tried the linerless from
Yes,
Vans?
And they're still too stiff.
Oh wow, you want?
But it's really... I don't. Well, I guess I should be more specific. Like when you put the Vans linerless boots on, like there's almost like, I don't know. I kind of like the independent flex of the liner and the boot, and maybe I like my liner to be a little bit stiffer than the boot. Does that make sense? Like, if my boot's a little bit blown out, for lack of a better term, like
and you put a new liner in.
put a new liner in it. I'm like, oh, I've got a new lease on life here. That's how I do it.
That's the anyone I know that's been boarding forever. That's the go-to. You have a packed out insole and you throw that into a new boot. Your shell's really stiff, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
It's a great way that, you have the support in the areas, but then, the counterbalance between the two is really good. And I think since we're flowing into this era of you growing up and having shitty gear, just for the people who maybe don't know who you are, let's throw it back to a little bit of like, where did you grow up and what was life like growing up for Todd?
I grew up in New England, in Massachusetts, in the USA, obviously, for people that are in Canada, and it's East Coast. It's shitty. It's icy, and I grew up. I was
it's
shitty. I was a runty little kid who wasn't particularly. I wasn't tall. I was pale and didn't really fit into any groups. I wasn't a jock. I wasn't a stoner. So I kind of discovered skateboarding and punk rock simultaneously in like my sophomore year, end of freshman year in high school. And basically that just kind of transitioned into me becoming a skater and finally finding my group of misfits that would accept me, which led into snowboarding strictly as like a social thing. Cause we're talking like 1980s, 85, 86, like Burton Backhill.
What, out of curiosity, would you have ever seen in a Thrasher magazine snowboard ads?
Yeah, I mean the reason that we kind of were stoked on snowboarding, for me personally, the kids that I looked up to that I would skate with, this one kid in particular, his name is Rob Levine, and he's 100% responsible for me making anything of myself, because he was just one kid I looked up to, and he would skate. He was like a pretty good skater, and like he was just cool, and he snowboarded. And we all skied back there, but it was like skiing as like a social thing for us. Like, it was basically like it was Saturday. We had ski club. All the kids from high school or, middle school up through high school would go to the mountain, and basically you just like fuck around for like the day and like cause trouble and just, be delinquents. So, he was the first one that we knew that had a snowboard, and we saw ads. I think there was a Burton ad in Thrasher, or there was this old company you could mail away for skateboards because there wasn't any skateboard shops back then, called Skates on Haight in San Francisco, and they had Burton snowboards in their ad for skateboards. So it was cool. Like, we thought it was cool because, number one, it was parallel to this skateboard selection in this ad. Like, so that automatically meant, oh, it's in Thrasher, it's cool. And then not long after that, I believe it was either Bryce Knights or Rob Roskoff was on the cover of Thrasher snowboarding at Mount Rose. It's the only time that Thrasher has ever had a snowboarder on the cover. And I think
I remember it.
Yeah. He's like,
I don't remember it. It's way before my time, but I know about the history.
Yeah. He's like doing a slash and it's, but
he's
that
got a Thrasher sticker on his nose of his board.
Yeah. He's on an old Kidwell and he's just, like whatever. And that's when it was like, oh shit, snowboarding's freaking cool. Like, because we were all the vert skaters that basically worshipped anything that came out of Thrasher or Transworld at that point. So as soon as we saw that, our favorite skaters were going snowboarding, whether it was Steve Caballero back in the day, having that little picture of him kind of jumping off the side of a building at Soda Springs, or Lance Mountain even had an ad for Flight snowboards back in the day, doing a backside air out of a quarter pipe. And this is a long time ago. This is like probably right around 86, 85, 86. And it's crazy. Like, I think back to like when we first, we all went and got snowboards. We had to order them at this ski shop. And because Burton was in Manchester, Vermont at that point, it was kind of like an East Coast, it was Burton boarding. It wasn't even called snowboarding in New England. It was called Burton boarding. So it'd be like, if you got a Sims, you'd be like, oh, you got a Sims Burton board. Like, that's how it was, like the mentality of it was back then. And I remember I just remember getting my first snowboard and like in the brochure, or like, the thing that's like taped to the bottom of the board, it says this snowboarding works in 3 to 6 inches of snow. And I just remember just waiting for 3 inches of snow. Like, I'm like, I can't ride this until we have 3 inches of snow. So
Says right on the board.
Let's freaking go. It says it on the board. Like, I need 3 inches.
Oh, it snowed 7.
Yeah.
Also doesn't work.
No, it's anything over 3. And I just remember the first time that it snowed, like I probably got the board in October. And then it snowed in like November, 8 or 9 inches. And we went to like the local steep hill, because at this point ski areas were like, nah, you guys are insane. We're not letting you up here. And I don't blame them.
And you saw Terry Kidwell hiking somewhere.
No, not even. It was more like I just went up to this local hill with a couple of my bros and couldn't do it. And I was like, snowboarding is stupid. I hate this. This is like because we all thought that you'd just be like, just jump and they do all this stuff. No, this is horrible. So snowboarding was just a social thing for me until I went away to school after I graduated high school in 1987. I went to school in New Hampshire when there was a ski resort right near where I went to school. And so I was still skating all the time. Like I had this dream of being a pro skater at some point, and snowboarding just became like, I don't know, I guess I got pretty good at it. And there was like these regional contests and I did kind of good at that. And next thing you know, it just kind of snowballed from there. Truly, like within like a year or 2 years of that, I was, on the Sims team traveling around the world. It was kind of a weird thing.
Damn.
It happened.
Who would have
really
been on the
fast.
Sims team at that point?
Chris Roach, Tucker Franzen, Sean Palmer, Terry Kidwell, Kevin Delaney.
And were you the young gun with those guys?
I was like this little turd from the East Coast, because Sims at that point didn't sponsor anyone from the East Coast. So in 1980, either 89 or 90, I went to the US Open, and I remember I had a board flowed to me through actually Trevor Graves's, his girlfriend at the time was like some kind of like a Sims rep for the East Coast. And they flowed me aboard. And being flowed aboard at that point, like I was just like, I'm sponsored. Oh, but I'm sponsored. By the way, I got this board for free. Did I tell you guys? Did you guys know I got this board for free? I didn't pay any money for this at all. So I'm sponsored, right?
The guy's like, I didn't ask.
No, exactly. So like, I mean, at this point in life, like that was like being sponsored was like
holy grail.
It was just something. If you could say that you were sponsored, are you sponsored? Like it was just one of those things. So I got this board, and then we went to the US Open. I entered, didn't do particularly well, but like rode pretty good at the practice sessions, I guess. And then the Sims team manager that went there was like, hey, yeah, you want to ride for Sims? And I was like, yeah. So
is this a half pipe or is this slope style?
This is half pipe. Slope style, it didn't even exist until basically.
Glad I asked.
I'm trying to think. Like I was having this conversation with somebody not too long ago, and I honestly think the first slope style event didn't even really happen until 96.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not that like slope styles. I mean, there was snowboard parks, with jumps and stuff. I think like in 94. But like I don't feel like there was an actual slope style event, So it was like we would all just ride the park, but there wasn't anything that was like top to bottom
linking up.
Like I think for me, the first time I ever saw a slope style event, I think was like the X Games that were at Snow Summit, the very first X Games, which would have been 97.
Yeah, it was either like Snow Summit or Colorado. I feel like those are just the goes. Snow Summit was like, yeah.
There may have been one before that at Sierra at Tahoe, like the year before, but it was definitely like wasn't like a, we have a slope style circuit. So yeah, this is pipe back in the day, and yeah, so the Sims put me on the team, and next thing you know, I'm like this little kid, and I'm just like traveling the world with these freaking Daryls. Like Palmer was like peak Palmer at that point, like torturing. I was tortured a lot as like the young kid on the team by not only like, I mean, like Rankwit was around a lot at that point. It was like Roach and Rankwit were inseparable. Selaznik was on Kemper then. Yeah, and it was just,
did you watch anybody invent tricks? Because I mean, at that point, people really didn't have it all figured out. They were shuffling around and doing, late backside 180s and stuff. Did you watch anything like, wow, that guy just invented something?
I witnessed Tucker Franzen invent the fake it forward 720, the switch 720 in the half pipe. I saw that happen at Breckenridge in 1990.
In front of your face.
Yeah, like right there. I saw Craig do the first. I saw Craig Kelly do the first. I guess it would be considered a switch backside 360 in the pipe. We called it a frontside cabs in the pipe back then, like I guess a frontside gay twist. I don't know if you can say that anymore, but like that was the first time we ever saw that. Rankwit was the first. I saw Rankwit do fake it 360s out of the bottom of a pipe back then. There was kind of a lot of stuff that was like happening, like, you know, all the shuffles, like all that stuff that you think about, like flat ground.
Yeah, Scott Stevens world, like nose blunts on the ground and stuff
like that.
Yeah,
like that was all like the Joyride guys in like the early 90s, like Rowan Rogers and Nate Cole and Dale Rayberg and Jake Blattner, and those kids were all inventing that stuff early season at Copper Mountain because there weren't any jumps. There wasn't very much snow the year that those guys all moved from the Midwest to Copper Mountain. So they would just kind of make up other stuff. And that's, you know, where flat ground came from. And then Roach and Rankwit and Selaznik, they kind of took it from there and did like all that butter stuff kind of came from that. Like it was just like the next evolution.
They took it and they ran with it. So what would have been your first sponsor then? Like other than, was it Sims?
Sims was my first sponsor. Like I rode for Sims and Gotcha Clothing. Well, and then in the very beginning it was Sims head to toe, and I think Belay goggles.
Did they make outerwear?
Yeah, they did. They made like these.
Did you hold on to any of that?
My mom has it somewhere, and she can't figure out where it is. But a house is only so big, so I know it's in the house somewhere. Yeah. And they were like these. Like you can see the board. I don't know if you can see the board behind me. Like there's.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so
the
that's
black one.
Yeah, I can. There's a story about that board, but that's so when we would get our stuff, it would have Sims team screened on it and on the nose of our board. So it was like, you know, fulfilling this kid's dream of being sponsored. It was not only was I sponsored, but I was advertising it on my person. Like it was like,
damn.
I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I'm like, hello. So yeah, it was kind of a big deal. It was a really big deal. And that just to kind of reiterate on the story for that board. So back when my first sponsor was Sims, and then Sims broke apart into two different versions of Sims. It was like there was a company dispute with Vision, like Vision Streetwear owned the name to Sims. Tom Sims took Sims and tried to take it off in this other thing. So there's actually two Sims at one point in 1990. So I went with Moro. That's when Moro snowboards came about. So everyone that was the people that brought me on to Sims in about 1990 went on to form Moro snowboards. So I was, you know, I got rid of all my old Sim stuff because I never thought that I would get to a point where I would want to be nostalgic about holding on to things like that. I'm an idiot and I'm a young kid and I'm just trying to like Pac-Man consume things. So about 4 years ago, I get this email from this kid who got my email address from some other random person in the town that I grew up in. And he's like, hey, I was just cleaning out the garage and I found this board. I think your mom gave it to my mom to give to my dad. And this is like, dude, this must have been like 89. And that Sims board was just floating in someone's garage and he freaking sent it back to me. And it was like stickered, like all my bindings and my stickers and everything, basically like a time capsule, like gave to somebody. Again, because my mom was always like, she was just giving all my shit away anyway. She gave away all my Star Wars stuff, like just mom.
Harsh.
Like, oh, this is taking up space. Let's get rid of this.
Oh, Darth Vader in the box, never opened.
Get rid of this. So she kind of did that with a lot of my snowboard stuff too, because I just didn't have an interest in it, and moms don't want that.
And you get it back.
And I freaking got it back, dude. And
that must have felt really good, actually.
It was insane.
That's crazy.
I just remember taking it out of the box, and it takes a lot to ship someone a snowboard. Like
that's effort.
It's an effort. And like you tell someone, yeah, dude, I'll totally get your board, and then it comes down to like the time we have to like, I gotta go find a box and then go to FedEx or whatever, and it just becomes like they just don't do it. So to have actually someone like go through the effort of not only finding that but like getting your address and sending it back and not wanting anything in return. And I was just so blown away by that. And I pulled it out of the box and I just stared at it. I like smelled it. Like the whole thing was like, because I
It's
used to
crazy
take
because you actually rode that too.
Yeah, it was like the board that I rode in like 89. It was insane.
Is that when you would have had 89? I'm thinking about like when you dyed your hair blonde and you started riding a lot of pipe and destroying it. That was sick.
Okay, so that was probably like 93.
Yeah.
Like 92, 93 is when
you had the
went
cover of Transworld or whatever with that.
Yeah.
I think you had two, but the one of you riding, and then you have the one of the front three melon where you're like all crooked cop tweaked in front of the lens. That one's sick.
Yeah. That was like, God, I think that was like 92 or 93. There was like, I just remember my mom, when I grew up, she was a hairdresser. Like, so I grew up with like a salon in my house. Like it was like the house part and then a full business of like women getting their hair done, like right in there. So it was like, that was just part of my life growing up. So it was really annoying when I was a kid because there was always people at the house and the house always smelled like women cooking their hair. You know, it's just like that chemical smell. But then as I get older, I realized that there's just a shitload of stuff to bleach your hair with in there. And like, I just had like free reign to like do. So I got to this point where all of a sudden I just started like making my hair like fishing line. Like I wanted it to be like fishing wire. Like I want my hair clear. And it was really because I just like that Western Front movie that came out right around that same time where snowboarding changed for me is like what I thought snowboarding was. Chris Roach just looked like the ultimate surfer Cali dude with super bleached hair. And, he was just roaching around being like all squatty and grabbing super tight to his feet. And like, cause at this point I'm like, my hands are like, wherever it hits, it sits kind of deal. Like,
yeah.
Like, but Roach was like, everything was tight, everything was proper, everything was skate. And that was like when it changed. And I wanted to be Chris Roach. And so that meant dyeing my hair, fishing line white, and anything I could do.
So sick.
Yeah.
That's rad. And at this point, we touch base on some covers. What was like the coolest magazine in this time frame, like around 90s to 95? Like was Blunt magazine the coolest to be published in, or is landing a cover on Transworld like top tier, the best thing you could ever do? Like,
well, at this point, like maybe even like a little bit before that, to back up, there was 3 magazines that were happening simultaneously. There was International Snowboard Magazine, which was like the one of the core publications. There was Snowboarder, which was whack in the beginning, like straight up whack. And then there was Transworld.
Nice to know.
Yeah, like it was just funny because the first couple issues of Snowboarder were like just not, it was just goony people like flying, like basically falling down in like fluorescent day glow outfits. It's goony.
And they were not following the Roach path.
No, it wasn't. And I mean, I get it. You're trying to sell a magazine. It's like snowboarding's wacky. It's cool because that's
goofy to begin with. Let's be honest.
That was like one path of snowboarding at that point, was like the fluorescent, my hair.
Damian Sanders.
Yeah, totally. But like nerdy Damian, because Damian was cool as shit. But it was like the other end of it, where it's like, just like super fluorescent sunscreen on your nose and your lips, like every comic thing that you think about, like that was some people's version of snowboarding. So snowboarder was whack in the beginning. It got better, obviously. And then Transworld was always rad because there was Transworld Skate, and now they were doing Transworld Snow. So to me, Transworld Snow was freaking rad because it was in the same offices as Transworld Skateboarding, which was at that point like kind of better than Thrasher. Like Thrasher would come off on your fingers. Like it'd be like, it was just kind of like when you think about in terms of like getting a magazine at that point in time about skating, like Thrasher was like a news print thing that would just come off in your hands. And Transworld was like a glossy magazine with like, it had, it was a lot less like kind of just derrily. Sorry, there's a garbage truck dumping garbage right outside. If you can
Sick, dude. That's part of life.
Yeah, you guys are just part of my Friday. But at any rate, yeah, like so the sick magazines then it kind of like then International Snowboard Magazine kind of went away. It just kind of died off because there was only really room for 2 publications and people only had so much money back then to spend. Well, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. There's a fuckload of money in the industry back then. And then then Ken Block decided that that because Ken grew up snowboarding basically alongside a lot of the skaters in Southern California. Like it was just part of what you did. Like I met Ken on one of my very first trips with Sims when we were in Colorado, and Ken drove this like GTI that was like zebra, like painted like a zebra. It was so goony, dude. It was so weird. But Ken was friends with Rankwit through somebody else, and so Ken drove us to, like, when we were at the contest up in Summit County, Ken drove us to the skate park that was like 2.5 hours away to go skating with everybody, and it was rad. And that's how I met Ken. So Ken's been OG snowboarding, like just in snowboarding as long as he's been in skating, and he decided that at that point in time for Blunt, like Big Brother was kind of happening, and snowboarding needed to have like a sarcastic opinion, and that's where Blunt came. I still think Blunt's like the raddest magazine that ever happened.
I've only seen the magazines, but I mean I wasn't a kid consuming Blunt magazines, way before my time, but I've rolled through them, and some of them I just couldn't. You just laugh the entire time.
It's
like, this
so
is insane.
So like
the product testing videos are so
yeah, like it's funny too because you think about who's in those product testing videos. So Cody Dresser is basically responsible for Monster being the monster it is right now in action sports. Like he rode for Joyride, and I forget who else he rode for, but Cody was like a hard partying, like that was part of his rep as much as his flying off things to flat was like Cody would freaking go, full dummy when he went into the bar. And so they just like, and Dave England from Jackass, they just fed them a bunch of alcohol and said, hey, test this product. And that was like when Dave England's like punching himself in the face with gloves, like these gloves are great for punching yourself in the face. And Cody's like wasted trying to break snowboards in the back and like,
yeah, like lighting them on fire and trying to get them to flex, like
fire extinguisher in the face. Like a lot of this stuff is actually in like Whitey's old movies, like in the I forget what it's called, like Resistance Chronicles or some bullshit. But like, yeah, there's like all this old stuff about like guys like that. There was just such a cast of characters within snowboarding back then that just made it rad. Like you had your contest jocks, and you had your racers, and you had your Matt Goodwills, or the big mountain dudes, because the big mountain dudes at that point looked big mountain. They like looked like they lived in the mountains. They weren't like, they were just, I don't know, there was just something about like the way they all looked.
They looked like a mountaineer.
Very mountaineer, right? And they were all like kind of like super long hair, dirty, and a lot of them from Alaska or like Pacific Northwest. And it's a lot, the big mountain riders are a lot more clean cut than they used to be. They used to just
they look like it came out of a mountain.
Totally.
Nick Russell's holding it down for big mountain riders. He got like a big scruffy beard, and he just looks like he's just walked out of a
Eric Jackson too. Like he's kind of like he's kind of holding it down for like, and John Jackson too with the dreads and stuff. Like those guys are
they're holding it down for the big mountain hair guys, for sure. So a question I would have for you is, seeing mass generations of guys go from like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010 era riding pipe and riding slope style, I guess. And we'll touch base on your career as like a little bit of a, contest guy, but who would have been some of your favorite guys over the years in the contest world?
You mean, for me personally, I was always like a big fan of Rankwit, Roach, Jeff Brushy, anyone that kind of, Damien, Palmer, obviously. I was always a big fan of people who skated and then I would go and skateboard with, and that was kind of a big thing. And then like as it kind of like moved on, it was like I met all the Scandinavian kids, and it was like Ingemar Bachmann and Johan Olafsson, and like Daniel Frank was a really good friend of mine. Obviously Terrier, like I was just a fan of the game, you know, and I was really stoked on people that had interesting, good styles. Um, you know, it was Noah Brandon. We traveled with Noah Brandon a whole bunch at that point, and Noah was like the epitome to me of like, if you want to watch someone that's like fluid. Josh Dirksen, huge Josh Dirksen fan.
Sick.
You know, so these, you know, we have all of these iconic dudes that we would travel around with, and there's just so many. It's kind of hard to like narrow it down, but like I would say,
no, those are sick names.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted.
Yeah, like
throw out a few new ones, like a newer, like the like Danny Davis era to like now kind of vibe. Like, who are some guys that catch your eyes in the contest world that are like, you know, still holding it down for having good style and stuff?
I was always a really big fan of Scotty Lego. I thought Lego had like a really interesting, yeah, like he had a really interesting way of spinning that was kind of different than a lot of other people.
His melons were phenomenal.
Yeah, and like he was like one of the first people that I ever saw do like a double cork 10 in the pipe, but it wasn't like the flying meatball double cork 10. It was like kind of like a subtly double dipped, kind of like more like a David Benedict when double corks first started. It was more of a subtle thing than you know, the full on up and over.
Yeah, totally.
So Scotty was always I was always a big fan of him. Obviously Danny Davis, because I think he's switched up the game as far as what
yeah, the half cab method thing and stuff, like or like the stale fish to fakie and stuff.
Yeah,
some of those
just different, thinking differently, and being able to do that in a super pipe of that size.
Yeah,
I think it's another thing. Scotty James, I think is incredible for reasons of him just. I've never. I mean, when I was like at the pinnacle of pipe riding, you know, I would fuck with going switch backside. I would, you know, try to do switchback sevens and switchback fives. I've probably done 3 switchback sevens in my life because I'm terrified of them. So to watch someone like that be so comfortable, and be able to do like a switch backside 1260 freaking 15 feet out, like it's just so beyond.
I can't even ride up switch backside on in a half pipe on my heel edge. Like, yeah. I can't.
The thing is like it's pipe now is a lot different. It's a different sport than the one that I did. Oh, and Otterstrom, obviously, because Otterstrom's the best at everything. He's just like, I think about someone that's like been touched by snowboarding, like the gods of snowboarding went, you are a chosen one. But you know, Otterstrom was just one of those dudes who could do it all. He's jack of all trades. But you know, just to get back to like talking about pipe, it's when I was riding super pipe all the time, I think the max, like when they switched to 18-foot deep super pipe, it took a little bit to get used to. And that's kind of like when I bowed out of riding pipe, was like right when they switched to 18, right around, you know, 2006. Yeah. And then, you know, it started to become more and more of, you had to be able to hold an edge and keep your shit together going really fast. And it no longer was going straight up and straight down. Now you're going down the line a lot more in the pipe. And maybe before we get 8 hits, now they're getting 5 hits because they have to travel down the pipe and go twice as fast as we ever went. So like I get in a 22-foot deep super pipe and I'm lost. Like I get vertigo sometimes. Same. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I know that I've ridden a bunch of like 15-footers and I'm like in heaven. Like a slushy 15-footer to me.
It's slushy 12-foot to me is like, I could spend, I could ride 1,000 feet of that and do that on lap forever. That could be it.
I love it. It's my favorite thing.
Coping tricks. Nobody's getting mad if you're backlipping the whole thing. Like,
right. And it's just like, if you want to do airs, you do airs. And it's like, it's not, I don't know. I rode one at Park City maybe a year ago. Not a year ago, like 2 years ago. And it was the most fun I'd had. Like, I forgot how fun pipe was because I just didn't even mess with it because it was so big. And it was like, I remember half pipe. This isn't what I remember. Like, yeah, the sensation of doing a backside air is still in my head, but I can't do that. I can't be comfortable flying up the top of a super pipe.
Riding a super pipe is a fully different sport, I would say. Like you cannot ride a super pipe unless you practice and you have that accessible. Where like I grew up in Winnipeg, there were 0 pipes within 1,000 bazillion miles, and I never touched a half pipe until I moved to Whistler when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, when I first rode in it, I was like, I didn't grow up riding this. I'll just skip the half pipe, because that's when Whistler, when I first moved there in probably 2007, they adopted the huge half pipe too, and they were like, yeah, exactly.
Oh, when it was down in the trees.
Yeah, it's still there. That's the
Yeah.
only spot it's ever been, which is weird because it's.
Well, it was above that. It was right when when you get off the tram.
Yeah.
Okay, right there on top of the park. It used to be right there.
No way.
Yeah, like basically right at like where that lodge is at the top there.
Yeah.
You would walk to the pipe right from there, and it was kind of
Not
above
like that. Like when they were doing that, must have been before my kind of time, because I remember when I first moved there, seeing like just old pictures on the walls and stuff of Keir Dillon and like, you know, Trevor and Michael Chuck at the West Beach Classic, just going like absolutely ham.
That was like 2 years later is when they moved it down there at the bottom of the park, which was, I mean, that pipe was insane. I just like I remember going for all those West Beaches and like the Sims World Championships and all that stuff, and like, you know, Guy Duchesne like just ripping, like that dude, first dude I ever saw do a frontside 1080 in the pipe. Like, dude, Guy is this shit. And it was just like, it was just so cool to always to like that. Our events that we would go to Whistler for were always at the end of the season. So it was like the exclamation point, like kind of after you would come back from either West Beach or whatever it was, like that was it. Like,
it's time to celebrate.
Away.
Let's go to Whistler and have a good time. That's what Whistler's always been about. Like, I feel like Whistler's a great place for, you know, it's the end of the year and team managers are like, we're going to get the group together. We're going to go to Whistler. We're going to shred, because the mountain's still caked with snow, and you go up there and the team's like there to like put on a little bit of show at the event, but they're also there to just be like, the season's over. We did our events. We filmed our video parts. Let's party and enjoy each other's company.
Yeah. And I mean, like at that point in time, it was Browner and freaking Dion and JF Pelchat.
Dion,
like,
yes.
Dude, I just remember like, this is like peak JF, like when he reached his final form before
jumping onto tables.
Dude, he was doing this shit where we would bring a bunch of zip ties to what's the bar that's at the base of like
Longhorn?
Right where you get on the lip. Yeah, okay, so everyone's out in front of the Longhorn, and it was like buckets of Coronas, like buckets of Ronies, like that would just be like the thing that would go around. And someone got a whole bunch of zip ties, and so we would like zip tie random people to like chairs and buckets. I remember at one point JF was just going he was hard in the paint that day, as he would be at all these events, and we zip tied JF to like 6 of those buckets, 4 chairs, a whole bunch of snowboards, and then he gets up to leave and all this shit is like dragging with him. It was so fun. Like there was just always like so much debauchery that would go down, you know, between there and the Mongolian barbecue was like another like super offender of like where terrible things would happen after.
I love that you dropped in the same thing about Whistler being this place that you're hanging out with all these people and there's kind of some chaos, because as I mentioned earlier, Gigi on the podcast, he said the same thing. He's like, well, the first time I ever really partied was with Peter Line in Whistler. He's like, that place is crazy. We went to Garfinkel's.
Oh my God. There's been so many, like you think about, fuck, I haven't been to Whistler in so long. I really love it there. Like it has like such a good, like a warm feeling of history and just the craziest shit. Like I remember one night at Tommy Africa's freaking Kearns. So this is like Boozy the Clown era too. And Kearns and Johnson are just, they are just, you would see them coming just cross-eyed and you'd be like, oh God, here they come. Like we need to leave. And Kearns got arrested somehow and got thrown in the back of the cop car. And do you remember Hernan? Remember that dude Hernan?
No.
I forget what his name was, but he was just like this dude. They called him Hernanimal. He was always around. I don't even know what his real name was. It was just Hernan. Hernan's here. And it was like Dano and all these dudes were at the bar, and Hernan just let Kearns out of the cop car, and Kearns is cuffed. And there was an event, I think, the next day at Seymour, and I just remember it's in one of Jamie Mousberg's movies where
one of the whiskeys or something.
It wasn't a whiskey movie. It was
okay.
It probably wasn't a whiskey movie as well, because all those movies.
Milk.
Yeah, it probably wasn't Milk. Where Kearns has got the cuffs, they're like the chain is cut, but he still has the bracelets on. He's like, I'm getting fucking shitty. Yes, we got let him in the cop car. It was just such a crazy time in snowboarding where it was just, you never knew what was going to happen that night. There wasn't people going to bed because there was a contest tomorrow. It was like, who was barfing in the freaking start gate, was as much a part of the competition as it was. And I would say this is more particular to Whistler. Like West Beach Classic was as much of a roast as it was a contest. Like when you drop in.
Browner still, every time I see him, is like, still can't believe that guy beat me with a cab 9. I did the sickest cab 7. He's like, switch to switch is way sicker. Everybody knew that.
So funny.
He still complains about it.
Super bitter Browner. God. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And at that point in time, just the people like Mark Morissette and like some of the most stylish human beings that have ever stepped on a snowboard, with Devin and all these dudes. And it was just like, yeah, it's great. It was a great time in snowboarding.
What do you think the heyday was for snowboarding, as far as like money and support for athletes and support for magazines? Like, when would you pinpoint the heyday as?
There's probably like a three or 4 year run of it. I think like 2001 or 2002 is when it maxed out. But it was kind of like from 97 to like 2001 was like, maybe even earlier than that. There was like a 5 or 10 year run where like there's a lot of pro models, and that was kind of a crazy thing where like you didn't even really have to be good, you just got a pro model, and there was a lot of money being thrown around the industry at one point. And this will tell you how comical the industry was. At one point, I had a bunch of friends that were from Las Vegas that were all skaters that lived in Colorado, and they were, these are the guys that I skated with all summer long, and they were from Vegas, so there was always like some kind of angle being worked. Like you always kind of felt like, and a lot of them were really
like, what are you up to, man? Why do you need a ride to that airport?
It was even worse than that, dude. It was kind of like they all came from like wealthy families, but for some reason, like the thought of them having to pay for a movie or pay for a meal, or like this was all stuff that was just like they're gonna like worm their way out of it. And like there was like, or going to the ski area, like no one ever had any money, and no one ever had, they were always worming lift tickets or like a place to stay. It was just part of their shtick. Like that's who they were. So at one point we went to the big SIA trade show that used to be in Vegas, where everyone just went full dummy for like 3 days straight. So my friend Palmer, his first name was Palmer, we got him sponsored at the trade show. He didn't even snowboard. We just kept saying that this one kid was really good and kept running his name around these booths. And by the time he left, he had a full board sponsor and was like getting paid, dude. It was that easy at that point. And it was a joke. The whole thing was a joke. Like, oh yeah, you should see him, man. And then like would have somebody else roll in there and say the same thing. Like, oh man, you got to meet this dude. And then next thing you know, like the homeboy's walking out with like, a contract for a board and boots and whatever clothing. It was ridiculous.
Kids these days can't even get like a free pair of bindings without having to like return them at the end of the year. And homies are walking up being like, this kid's sick. And it's just word of mouth sponsorships.
I feel so bad for this industry right now because there's no magazines. Everything is based on heart clicks on Instagram or like, views. It's so stupid. Like it's so stressful because at least when the heyday of snowboarding, like we could earn enough money to make a living, like make a real living. And I think it was because there was a lot more the magazines and the video, the cinematographers and pretty much everyone in the media was a lot more invested in like making heroes at that point. And I think it was like there was an elite, it was an elite level of snowboarding, and people were put on a pedestal, and they became legendary
Yeah,
in the
they were
sport.
my idols.
Right. But
And I
I
looked
don't.
up to those people and I memorized every trick they did, what color bindings they had. I had pictures on my wall and I knew everything from their gloves to, and it's just, I don't know if kids, I often bring it up on the podcast that I feel like kids want to be the hero now more than they look up to like heroes.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's, I don't, like, it's really
I don't know
hard
if
for me.
that's true, but that's kind of how I feel sometimes.
I just don't like there's so many really good snowboarders, and it used to be that there wasn't as many good snowboarders. Now there are a dime a dozen. Like the kid, it seems like year two, these kids are doing doubles off of,
Oh yeah.
whatever, and switch back to 70ing onto triple kinks. Like, yeah, why shouldn't I do that? I saw Jeremy Jones do that in this video a while ago. Like, why shouldn't I be able to do that? So
Yeah,
it's
that yeah, it is insane when you watch some of these like smaller like um videos and it's insane the level that these kids are at and
yeah,
how little they get. Most of them, I would say, uh, even the pros I know are painting houses in the summer, are
sure.
electricians and stuff. Like nobody's making like a legitimate salary,
I
you know
mean,
what I
there's a
mean, to be
few
able
like
to live off of.
you look at the guys like the Dustbox crew, like they're so good. They're the most insanely technical snowboarders out there in urban environments, that there are right now. And you look at these guys and you're like,
And Mountain.
yeah, and it's like it's a bummer because they're not, yeah, they're getting support, but like what is support now? Support's like,
Three
yeah,
grand a year if you're the
yeah,
hypest kid.
it's just
But
so
here's a
wow.
question for you. Do you feel like there was more money back in the industry before because the industry was in the hands of the people that were actually snowboarders? Like there wasn't publicly traded companies that, you know, are on, Wall Street who you're looking out for shareholders' interests. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with some of the bigger companies because,
Mhm.
some of them give back in a lot of ways, in particular a company like whatever, like Vans and stuff like that does a really good job of being like, we're $1 billion company and we give back in a lot of ways. But I feel like a lot of companies they just don't give back as much. It used to be like, it seemed like maybe the companies were owned by snowboarders and they're like, this is the kind of money we're making. So
Mhm.
Todd gets paid this.
Right.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm
Well,
just,
I think a lot of it too, like you have to look at it in a couple different ways. Like back in the day, a lot of our salary was based on performance and coverage. Like
yeah, magazines.
how much coverage are you getting in these magazines? How many minutes are you getting in these videos? How many boards are you selling? Because that's then it's just a numbers game. Like, okay, you have a board royalty of $12. How many boards can you move? And it's simply like, okay, well, Todd moved this many boards, he gets paid this much money. And I would negotiate my salaries, and this is pre-Olympics. Olympics came in and fucked everything up, or whatever. But like, before then, it was like, okay, well, here's your max incentive package. If you max out all your incentives, this is what you will make a year. And eventually, as like for myself, as I started to do better and better, and started to do well in contests and was constantly getting coverage, I started to negotiate out that um incentive hit, and I would like find a happy medium and be like, look, it's my job to get these incentives. Like, okay, so you should treat me like I'm going to do my job, and we'll find a happy medium in here, and we'll just put that as base salary. And then boards, like I started to think of it like, why I wouldn't want my bottom end to be affected by a shitty rep in some territory. Because if that guy can't sell boards, it's going to come back and bite me in the ass.
Big time.
So I'm doing my job. I've created a board that has the potential to sell this many. Let's find a happy medium, and we'll just create a base salary around what, like, an average
Totally.
number of boards. So I was just trying to ebb and flow and make it so that, like, I would just have a salary and I wasn't having to depend on other people to like sell the boards, or like what happens if all of a sudden, because at this point in time, Japan was buying a lot of snowboards, like a lot of snowboards. So, it was a good time in snowboarding. And then the Olympics came and kind of like blew the scale to pieces for about 2 or 3 years. In 98, the scale went crazy because everyone thought that the Olympics was going to change snowboarding. They thought, this is right when Moro snowboards went public. It was right when Ride snowboards went public. And the machine was, talking about snowboarding. It's the hypest new thing. It's going to be great. You've got myself and a couple other people are like, they could win gold medals. And so there was a lot of money being thrown around from outside of snowboarding. So that kind of like whacked out the scale a little bit.
Clouded everyone's judgments.
Kind of, yeah. And just in terms of like financial compensation, it was just, it was kind of the beginning of like the industry went like this, it expanded. And then after that, it started to contract and contract and contract. And the people that were on top, like the top tier riders that were doing well in contests and getting the coverage, they were still getting paid really well. But these other riders were starting to fall off. And then as it began to contract more and more, some of these brands were like, why do we even need, like, pro models kind of stopped selling. Like that was like, no one cared. They just wanted, it was all about like, how much does this board cost? Like, is this board going to make me ride any better than this board? No? Okay, then why we have pro model boards?
I hated that phase.
Right. So
I saw that happening because when I grew up, every board had a name on it.
Sure.
And I grew up skating before snowboarding. And so like I never bought a blank board or a shop board. I always bought a pro model deck. Like, this is my favorite skater. Like, the flip team was my favorite. I would just skate flip decks and I'd buy and that's it. Just like you would hope that kids, when they were going out and their favorite guy is Todd Richards, going out buy a Moro board, Todd's signature on it, or, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was devastating when I saw like mid 2000, 2005, 2006, that kind of era. A lot of the boards would go to the shelf and just be like, where are your guys' like pro model boards? They're like, oh, we didn't grab that board. We didn't grab that. We didn't grab JPs or whatever. And I'm like, oh, like, I don't want just this ride board with like this on it or whatever. I want to buy Mark Frank's board on Sims with like him on the front.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
And I think that, I hope that brands, and it looks like some of them are starting to dish out some pro models, like maybe limit the royalties so you don't have to worry about your expenses on it. But like, getting your name on a board, if you're a pro, it's like, don't turn somebody pro if you don't want to throw a name on a piece of product, I think.
Yeah, I had the same opinion.
It's the biggest pat on the back ever to have your name on a board. It's like, you're on the pro team, you get a pro model deck. I think that's just how it should be.
I do too. And it's you think about the way that it parallel, like skating's different now. Like, you see all these big celebrations of people they're going pro and they get their board and it's a big celebration.
Snowboarding, crickets.
Right. Snowboarding, crickets, but it kind of used to be crickets and skating too. Like, it wasn't like this big celebration where like, all right, he's coming out of the van. It's just like, that kind of thing kind of started with like, not the Death Wish guys, but freaking Baker. Like, yeah. I kind of feel like Baker was the first brand that actually, like, it was a big deal.
Yeah, they're like, Figgy's pro, like,
right. And it kind of like,
Cater's pro,
kind of turned this corner where that was the cool way to do it. And I do feel like snowboarding will follow in those footsteps. I don't know where the money will be, but I just think, like, getting back to what we were talking about, like, the industry was just condensing, and it was people at shops were like, they just didn't want to sit on inventory. And the way to not sit on inventory is to have cheaper selling snowboards that perform the same as the crazy pro models.
I think that a lot of brands are like, if we give a pro model, then he needs to design the whole board, and it might not go with our design and our like look.
Yeah.
Which I understand. Like, I do understand that you're a brand, and as a pro, you're just trying to, if you remove the whole ego and everything from you, you're a sponsored athlete to help that brand make money. It sounds shitty, but that's the truth. And so if you're going to come up with a crazy graphic that's not going to sell any boards, it's like, you're not really helping the brand. So I still think it's cool though, if like maybe brands meet in the middle, where it's like, here's a few ideas we had for a pro model board. We're going to stamp your name on it. Which is your favorite color? We can move some shapes around if you like. Mm-hmm. And you can talk with the graphic designers about, maybe a different base or whatever. And like you said before, meet in a happy medium with your contracts there. I think that would be cool. So it's like, you still get your name on a board. The brand's happy because it's got like a look and an appeal to the consumer. So it's still going to sell, and you get your name on a board, and maybe your royalties are small, but it's still a great way for you to eat. And you with the whole Instagram thing, you would be more enticed and more intrigued to promote that board a lot on your social media because it's your pro model, and your following would be a lot more enticed to go buy that board because people follow you for you. So they'd be hyped. They'd be like, what? Like, I don't know, whoever, you know, Harrison Gordon's got a pro model. Like, let me get that board.
And it's funny too, because I mean, there's so many different personalities within snowboarding these days. And I think that, you know, it doesn't come like, I look at like Mark McMorris, like he doesn't have a pro model. McMorris doesn't have a pro model. And it's like, okay, well, you're like probably one of the elite few now that is getting, you know, max paid, like the 1% of snowboarding that's freaking killing it. And you look at him, he doesn't have a pro model. You look at Chloe Kim, obviously she could move a lot of boards because, and honestly,
the followings alone.
Right. The followings alone would move a lot of product, and the women's side of things, especially, you know, I think about like Jill Perkins. I think Jill Perkins could move a ton of boards because of who she is and her following. And Desiree, I think Desiree does have a pro model, but it's not everyone. And it doesn't fit this, I don't know, it doesn't fit in the puzzle. Like I think about like Mike Rabb, for instance, once again, like Mike Rabb there's a following for Rabb. And there's a following for like guys like Dylan Gamache, and there's a following for like Gooner, like, and these kids that like really kind of inspire a generation to, like, they, you know, for lack of a better term, they move the needle. You know, they move the needle in one way or another. There's only a handful of people that really do that in snowboarding these days, and some of them don't have pro models, and it's like, I don't know, until everyone kind of gets on board. But I do think it's going to happen. I think you're going to start to see like a brand, like, I guess like kind of like Nitro kind of does it with, you know, Fox and Austin Smith, when Austin was still part of Nitro. Like they had like a line of boards.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's kind of cool. It's like, here, this is what we like to ride. This is my riding style. This is my size. This is the flex that I use. You know, maybe it's the same board that's in the line, but it's just different. It's just a different color way or something like that. And a mid-season release. I'm back
in the pro models. I think more if you're a team manager working at a brand, I think that you should. And I don't think it's cool if you were a brand. Let's say use Mark McMorris as an example. Maybe Burton's kind of a bad example, but let's just say. So Mark, obviously huge following. He gets his name stamped on a board. He's going to sell way more boards, etc. Mm-hmm. Let's say there's a new guy who gets on Burton, and he's just smaller, less of a following, but Burton's still hyped to have him on the team. He still brings an energy and a look and a riding style that Burton wants on their team, but he's not as big as Mark. It's that shouldn't affect that person getting a pro model. It's like, you're still hyped to put, if you decide as a company to turn somebody pro, it's like, there's always like a spot for like the Andy Forgashes and like the Hesh dudes who are just out there having fun and bringing an energy and a certain vibe. They might not sell as many boards, but there's a look there that appeals to a specific consumer that you want to drag into your company. And I feel like, I don't know.
Solid Forgash drop right there, by the way. That was
awesome. Yeah. Big fan.
But you know, I think about but back in the day, like, and I'm just envisioning this in my head, like we would go to the Burton US Open every year. It was the kind of like the end of the contest. And this is when it was at Stratton. And I'm talking about when the pipe used to be on the other side of the hill, like the OG half pipe spot. And so that was when we would see all of Burton's new shit, because their entire Burton army would be on the new gear. And if it was like, okay, well, you've got like Jim Rippey, you've got like Terrier's model, and you like Jamil Khan and Blair Rusin, and you know, you'd have all of these kids that were on their AM team. Jason Brown, Brushy would get a new model, and then a couple of those kids would get to ride Brushy's model. And then Terrier would get his board, and a couple kids would get Terrier's board. And it was like, it just kind of put, maybe it dangled the carrot, like someday you can be here, you know, and it gives people something to aspire to as well. It's like, you know, I'm not advocating for giving everyone a pro model, because I think that's what it was like in the beginning of the 90s, where it's just like, you know, you could go to the trade show and hype somebody up by word alone. I'm saying like, maybe there's milestones. Like for me, I couldn't have like Morrow's straight up told me, he said, you can have a pro model when you win the US Open. And this is at a time when everyone and their grandmother had a pro model. And I was so like, well, fuck you, I'm gonna fucking win the US Open then.
And you
like,
did.
And I did. So it was like,
twice.
but it gave me a goal. Like not only do I want to win the US Open, but I really want a pro model because everyone else has one. And this is my only way of getting them. So if there's like certain benchmarks that you need to hit, and it sucks these days because what's the benchmark? 200,000 followers, like that's freaking lame. Like,
and it's like
ender, like if you get an ender in a video and it's a freaking kick-ass ender, give that person a pro model. Like that's because an ender now is like as big as winning the US Open or big as winning the X Games, maybe bigger.
Yeah, opener ender is huge,
dude. It's massive. You win.
Pat on the back.
Totally. And it takes just as much dedication as these contest kids who go out there and they want to, make the Olympic team. It's probably more dedication than that.
It's the same, you know what I mean? You're the kid who wants to go, you want to go to the Olympics in the half pipe or slope style. It's like the work that you have to put on coaching and trampoline and air awareness and stuff. Now, if you're doing triples and quads, like we're just getting to the point now, I think we're, I mean, knock on wood for all the athletes out there, but it could get kind of scary when people are going 4 to 5 times around. At that point, with that much G force, it's like wind, everything plays a massive factor. And maybe you could touch base on, you announce, NBC, Olympics, X Games, all these massive events. I'm glad I'm not in your shoes, because sometimes you would be like 14, 15, 16, switch. We have the new guy. What stance is he? Holy hell, he's spinning fast.
Dude, it's so
How do you stand
gnarly.
out in those events now? How do you stand out as a young aspiring athlete to catch your attention? I really think the grab with the poke, if you are just doing the barrel roll where you grab the mute, it's like you have to stand out and be like, I'm going to grab tail. And at 10, I'm going to poke that tail like like Chris Roach in 1992.
Why is Rennie Renacongas every pro snowboarder's favorite pro snowboarder? It went to watching a contest. It's because he's different. Like he's not a flying meatball.
Yeah.
And it's
Red Gerard did a good job at the last Olympics with the Indy over the transfer.
Red's a lot. Yep. Red really differentiates himself. I think he has a really unique style. There's a bunch of guys. Stale rides way different. Sage rode way different than everybody else when he was still competing. It's crazy. Like you just talk about contest stuff, which is it's a difficult job to do. I don't get it right all the time. I will say that straight up. I get a lot of shit about that online. I mean, there's been some people's contest runs that I've completely botched. Like, for instance, Max Perot once at the Dew Tour, like I didn't have what footed he was when he left the freaking start gate. So I was just wrong the entire way down the run. And like, you only see what angle they give you on TV. Like I'm seeing the same angle that you're seeing. So if I don't see them take off, and everyone's spinning so fast, and there's probably a 180 that was even happened before they even left the lip, I don't know what's going on. And so
you
like
have to pee and you can't until the next commercial break.
Dude, it's rough. Half pipe's a lot easier, obviously, but even in pipe now, it's starting to get difficult because it's the speed of the spin. I'm not counting spins anymore. Like in slopestyle, I'm counting speed of rotation. That's how I know you did something. Yeah. So like if you did a 1620, yeah, you did a 1620. I know you did a 1620 because of the amount of speed you've spun off the lip, not because I'm like,
I can just watch and be like, that was a 12.
Yeah. Which way did he land? Like, oh, he landed backwards. Oh, it's a 1620 or whatever, 1800. I mean, because that's where we're at now.
But I want to see if I was a slopestyle kid, you go out there, you do like, a switchback 16, and you try and look like maybe Mickle when he was really doing this cool switchback 12s that I think was making him stand out a lot when Mickle was doing the contest scene, because he had that indie and that box look, and he would land really good on his toe edge, kind of like a JP Solberg vibe kind of in the contest world. And I think that if I was a kid, like why not do a front 10 double in the middle of your run? Make sure you go deep and do a slow Japan the whole time and you would be the only guy and everyone would be like, oh, he didn't grab like, I know a lot of like, and just switch it up or like stale fish with a backside spin. And instead of it just being tucked, like at one point do it like, like Heikki Sorsa and like tweak the shit out of that
thing. And I do think there are kids like that, like Brandon Davis, Nick Baden, like these younger dudes.
Sick example.
Baden's freaking sick and he's a freaking animal. Like these kids
front seven
that can stall. It's just different, if like you're doing a different, it's great. Yeah, just that's the only way you're going to be the dude is by standing out,
Yeah, which is I think Absinthe just came out with a few cool films and they touch base on Danny Cass's career. You would have been competing with him, and I think that Danny had that element that made him stand out back then. He was my favorite snowboarder growing up. He was my first like guy I really idolized. And what was it like to ride with Danny? Like I feel like he was doing it different, He
was. I mean, Danny came, out of, I shouldn't say out of nowhere, but like he was always at the contest with us. But then like one year, all of a sudden, it was this one contest in Breckenridge was like his breakout contest where he just decided to give zero fucks and do an air to fakie like 15 feet high. And that was like it. Like after that, it was like, oh, Danny Cass is going to win all these contests. And
I like that you saw that. That's so
it was there. I mean, we were all just like, what? Like, and then later on that year is when he learned the switch 1080. And then after that, I think at the Burton US Open, he was the first to do back-to-back 1080s in a half pipe, and he won the US Open. And then he won it again, and then he won it again. I think Danny's won the US Open like 3 or 4 times, maybe even 5 times. Like
how many? You've won twice?
I've won twice.
And wasn't one time slopestyle?
No. I don't even think I did a US Open slopes. I think maybe I did one, but I think I fell and freaking destroyed my hip and went home early. Yeah, I only did one US Open slopestyle and didn't actually compete in the finals day. But yeah, DCAS was like the shit.
And was it? What was like the mental clock-in that you would have to do when you were going to one of those events? I mean, like it was. I'm glad we talked on Danny being the shit there, but I mean, we could just bring this back to you. I mean, you had such an insane career, and had like accomplished, and you invented the wet cat and stuff. You know what I mean? We can't just forget that.
Total mistake.
How was the mental clock in when you were going to events like the Olympics and stuff? Were you stressed the whole time? Were these enjoyable do you reflect on these events like they were always fun, or do you remember being in a lot of those starting gates being like, fuck, I don't want to do this, like I have to go massive, I have to spin big, like the pressure? What was it like?
I mean there was a lot of the contests were just, it was just such a part of our, it was just such a part of our lives at that point. So they became like, you no longer were nervous. You knew what you needed to do. The better you were riding, the more nervous you were. You know what I mean? Like you could win this if you just pull your shit together. Like I would get nervous if I was riding in practice really well. But it's weird, like for someone that competes a lot and competes for a long time, you kind of get to this point where like you don't believe you can win, and then you kind of nudge over that and suddenly you believe that you are capable of winning. It's a weird thing. Like I would get third for like years, and I would never crack into the second or first. And then one year I just did, and it was like all of a sudden something just changes in your head where you go from being terrified in the start gate to like, just I want to fucking mangle everyone that's here, or I want to go as big as I possibly can on this first hit. And it was, Terrier was a great person to have to compete against for a long time because he was the best. I still consider him, like when he was riding the pipe at his pinnacle, he was like, it's all to scale of where Shaun White is and where all these other kids are, but like I still think technicality in the pipe and on a scale is like Terrier was still the best. His edge work at that time in those shitty pipes with those boards was incredible, because you got to remember, we weren't riding perfect half pipes. These half pipes were fucking jacked. Like they were good the first day you got there, but by the time practice rolled around, they were total shit. So, you needed someone like Terrier to push you. It worked. It was the build up to the Olympics was crazy in '98. Like, I came off of like a really good season where I don't think I lost anything that season. It was like a couple of years where it was
there were
like
some
either me or
serious
Terry.
W's.
Yeah, I had some really good winning years, and that was like, I don't know, I wanted it really bad. I was really hungry for it, and I would go out and I would
Here's
hike
a question for you.
yeah.
What kind of strategy goes into riding those events? Like, if you see like your opponent screwing up, I'm imagining the young guns always just focusing on doing his hardest run or whatever. But at one point, when you're a
Yeah,
vet, you probably have to look at it like a chess game.
totally. And just to take it back to Terry was a master at that. He was a master of the chess game. But like, what you wanted to do, and this is the strategy that anyone that's like winning in these half pipe contests. So you want to win qualifiers. So you're the last one to go in the finals. So you get to watch what everyone else does, and you only need to do what it takes to win. So do you need to try to do a freaking, I mean, at this point, it's like, do I really need to do a frontside 900 after I do my, 720 at the bottom of the pipe? And if the guy before me that was like my biggest competition, who got second in qualifier, fell, then you don't need to do it. But there's a lot of instances where you have a guy like Daniel Frank or a guy like Terrier, a guy like Ingemar, those were the guys that would get last or first. And those are the most dangerous competitors, is the guys that do not give a shit, and they will just go as big as like Mike Michalchuk was one of those guys. He would either knock himself out or he would be on the podium and he would win. Like, that's how Michalchuk did it. Like, there was no half speed for that guy. So those were, for me, like, being a smart competitor, I would like try to win the qualifier and then see where things would go, and then only incrementally bump up what I needed to do. It got a little, it's always beneficial too, like when you're competing and you're a snowboarder, to try to have some moves in the bag. That's kind of like when the backside, the wet cat, the backside 900 McTwist, like I figured out how to do that. And then I figured out how to do the inverted frontside 900. So I had back-to-back 900s that nobody had for like 2 years. So that was like,
you had a secret weapon.
Kind of. It was kind of like I know that if I land this run, I can win this, because no one else.
And when you're announcing and you see someone like Mark McMorris and his secret weapon, I love when you and Craig and everyone announces that, like, is he going to pull out?
Yeah, here it comes.
He has it. Yeah. Is he going to pull out X? And it's like, boom. And then Yuki Kodono does it. And you're like, no way.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, I see that in the pipe too. It's like, when Sean learned the Della McTwist 1260, no one even had anything that was even close to that. And for like a while. So Sean was just cruise controlling winning. He could just all he had to do is make it to that point in the pipe, do that trick, and he was probably going to win. And it wasn't until, even for myself as well, it wasn't until this younger crowd comes up. Like for Sean, it was what's his name? Ayumu Hirano comes in and just does Sean's shit and then does some other shit. And then it forces progression. It forces you as a competitor to be like, oh God, I got to ride harder now. I can't just rest on this one trick combo I had. So it's like, there's always bigger fish, and the younger fish are hungrier, and they gobble anything, and they don't care. They're the ones that are the most scary. When you're like the older veteran of the half pipe circuit, there's a reason to be nervous. There's a reason.
For sure.
You have a target.
1,000 little kids biting at your ankles.
You made them, though. That's the thing, is like, you have to remember, you can't get mad at these kids. Like, I would get pissed and be like, motherfuckers, these fucking little kids, and they get like mad. But I'm like, someone told me once, they're like, you did it. You like made these kids. You show them what this is winning. You're standing on top of the podium. You're putting a red dot from a laser pointer of someone's gun. Like, that's who you have to take down to stand there. I'm going to eat that guy alive. Like, that's.
I love that. I
That's
love
kind of how
the.
it goes.
He's bringing it back. I feel like you need to be at the top of a half pipe right now.
Yeah.
I feel like
I love it. I get back, like, when I get in the booth and it's a high stakes event, like the
some of those
Olympics,
feelings come back.
Olympics in 2018, where Sean, Ayuma was essentially winning the competition. Like, and it didn't even look like he was trying. Like, he would land a frontside 14 to switch 14 and go across the flat bottom like someone just ran over his dog. Like, just like, like he didn't even care. Like, oh, did that just happen? And Sean had to like dig deep.
You had to buckle up.
Totally had to buckle up, and you could see it. He was terrified in that start gate, but like that terror turns to like laser focus, and then all of a sudden he just wants to eat the half pipe alive. And I still feel that. Like, I feel that in my bones. Like, I know what it's like to sit there and have to like take a piss and take a shit at the start gate, because all of your, like, every bit of your adrenaline and everything is just like coming to a head. Like, I totally feel that again, because I know exactly what these guys are feeling.
Best half pipe rider of all time.
Of all time? I mean, wow, that's a really big question. In my personal opinion, and I think this is twofold. The most technical half pipe rider of all time is Scotty James, in my personal opinion. The best half pipe rider of all time, I think, is Terry.
Sick.
I think Terry is the best half pipe rider of all time. He moved the needle. He changed the game. He brought combos into the half pipe that changed the way we thought about runs. Like, he was the first guy I ever saw, like, in the middle of his run, just do like an alley-oop, like nose butter, pop back in the middle of a run. Like, just like everyone else is trying to do 720s and stuff, he does like a 10-foot high McTwist, and then pops up on the deck, alley-oop nose butter, pops back in, and then goes into like an alley-oop road. Like, just putting weird combos in weird places. Backside 360 to alley-oop 360. That was a huge one when the first time I ever saw him do that. Like, the edge work, I think Terry, for me, he was the best. It's still the best pipe rider of all time.
I mean, we can't go without saying that he's a phenomenal quarter pipe rider too, because the quarter pipe has been like this dissipating skill that used to be huge in the 90s to early 2000s, which was like it was like quarter pipe event. There was a quarter pipe event brought to my home city of Winnipeg, and it was like, I remember watching, like, it was probably in the 90s at some time. I'm watching a bunch of guys send this quarter pipe, and I was just like,
it's
oh yeah, that snowboarding is a quarter pipe. And now I haven't seen a quarter pipe in years.
they just had the World Quarter Pipe Championships at Squaw, like, I think 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the Slush magazine.
Yeah, Slush magazine one. It's one of those things in snowboarding where, it used to be like Whistler used to have that quarter pipe, or Blackcomb. Was it Whistler or Blackcomb that had a quarter pipe? I don't know, but it was like one of those big drifts that they would, take 3 days to dig out. There was a couple in Colorado, like natty ones. But like the ones that they would build, and you would like have to like the Arctic Challenge one, where Terry does like a giant 30-foot backside air and then lands on the deck and front flips in. Like, that's so terrifying to me. You know what I'm talking about? That one air where he's just air swim about 25 feet out, lands on the deck, and then front flips to the flat and makes it. Like, that's terrifying to me. Like, I
don't ever want to go that big on, like, Terrier, take the W, enjoy that method. And I don't ever want, imagine just like, I was imagining going that big and then just coming around and then realizing I either popped too much and I'm going to flat, or I didn't pop, like I didn't use my direction right, and my back foot is knuckling and I'm about to separate my shoulder.
I'd be way more comfortable trucking into a backside wall on my heel edge than going straight down fall line into a quarter pipe like that. Like, I kind of like to be on my edge a little bit. It gives me a little bit more pop. I don't, I've seen people pop out like 20 feet, but like pop 10 feet in and just fall out of a building to the flat and just, be done. Like, they're done. Like, you just blow both your knees out right there because your body can't handle it. It's one of the most dangerous things in snowboarding, I think, is to go giant on a straight at quarter pipe.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Announcing the NBC X Games, Olympics, and seeing the level of progression go beyond aerial skiing.
Yeah, because they can't do quads.
What are your thoughts being
Did you know that? Did you know freestyle, like freestyle skiers are not allowed to do quads?
There we go. We beat them.
In aerials, because I mean, obviously aerials is still like part of the Olympics. You're not allowed to do 4 flips.
Yeah, well, we've
Yeah,
but like, okay, so like, you know, seeing that progression of us exceeding aerial skiing, and being somebody who came from the heyday, the era of style and trick innovation, what are your thoughts on the spins and stuff, and where snowboarding is headed in the contest world?
I mean, you think about contests now, and what gets the biggest cheer at like a slopestyle event? And
a method, maybe.
Exactly. You know, someone does a steezy frontside 3 when they've blown their run, like they landed flat on one.
Eldor Helgeson coming in.
Right. You know, or someone does a method, or someone does a backside 180 no grab. It's still there. That will never go away. And until someone has a contest that, I mean, we're just talking about contest snowboarding. You know, it's contest snowboarding is what it is. It's your job to rack up a bunch of points to win the thing. And the only way to rack up points right now, because this is what the judge says, is to spin around as many times as you possibly can. But I mean, the purists know that, and even these contest kids know, they are not going out and doing triples on their freaking fun day on the hill. It's not happening.
What about if a responsibility for the judges to, you know, I like how you mentioned earlier about Terrier going up onto the deck and doing that butter. Like, what about the judges kind of scoring people for kind of stepping out of the box and being like, okay, we know the frontside 180, switch 50-50, switch back 3 on the flat bar is crazy, but you know, what if somebody came in kind of slower and just did a switchback nose press, you know?
Yeah, it's like,
and it's up to the judges to score those things correctly. So if those score really well and the contest riders see that a switch back tail to switch on the first flat bar is way sicker than a front 270, you know, there's a big thing, like you're announcing them, but there's a big responsibility that's falling into the hands of judges to make sure that they keep up with the times.
Right. And I think that, you know, it is changing so quickly. You look at a guy like Marcus Cleveland, he's so from beyond. Like he's doing complicated math while everyone else is like, you know, counting on their fingers. And, you know, he basically, the rewind tricks that he pioneered, like the backside 720 rewind. So, and then Sage kind of took it, did like the back 10 rewind. That kind of stuff, I think, is like the most complicated snowboarding. Like if Marcus Cleveland in the middle of his run, instead of doing the double cork back 10, which we know that everyone can do in their sleep at this point, it's kind of like a safety trick. Like it's just, okay, I have to do double 10 right here. I'm just going to do it. But who's doing back 7 rewinds? Nobody. So if like someone like Marcus Cleveland does, yeah, it's a trick that has far less rotation in it, but the difficulty level is off the charts. You have to reward for that. And sometimes I think that like the judges get so stuck in their own like formula that they've come up with, like more spins, more points. Totally. It's now you're doing math, and it's like, snowboarding is not math. Snowboarding
Let's transfer this into the natural selection then, because natural selection, Travis Rice's event that just came out, I think that they're trying to, you know, bring that style and essence of like, it's not all about the spins and stuff.
Right. But I will say this, if someone does a double at natural selection, that's a different story.
That's crazy.
You know, I think that's crazy. Like when like McMorris or someone comes in and does like a double cork in a natty feature, rutted out takeoff. It changes things. It changes your opinion of that trick, which I think is.
Or Mickle's switch carving.
Right.
Mickle switch carved for like 30% of his run, which to me is as good as anybody's like shitty cab 5.
Or the accidental backside 540. I'm claiming that it may have been an accidental backside 540 in Alaska that he's just stomped that thing bolts.
Yeah, but Mickle.
Do you think he was trying to do a back 3 and just it was like, oh God, I'm way too high.
I think he was, but the fluke to accidental switch stomp that needs to be rewarded, because I've been filming in the backcountry for the last forever, and you never see people. The back five in the backcountry, I would say, is probably one of the hardest tricks to do good pop and go big, and not have a super drifty and then land and then, stomp. But then as soon as anyone stomps on the back five, they traverse out at a 45, whether it's on their toe edge or on their heel edge. It's hard to see someone stomp, regain control, and then switch carve strongly after a backside five. That trick is,
it's nuts. It's just,
one of the best.
he is one of the best. And he's just, I saw him at this one contest when Vans used to have the Vans Triple Crown of snowboarding. And this is when Mikkel was kind of like a contest chomper. I remember Mikkel did a front side 10 melon on this bottom jump and knuckled, but stomped it and blew his knee out, but stomped it. And then came down to the bottom, like it just looked like he just landed on top, front 10, fully clutched, boom, and his knee, you could see it in the slow-mo, his knee just goes, and then he just rides down like a monster into the finish corral. And he's like, oh, I think I blew my knee out. And he goes to stand up and just falls over. And it was just so, like, he's such a beast, dude. Like, he's like,
yeah, the rock smash that he went to was a pretty, the first time he just does the front 180 and smashes into the rock and dies, and then goes back the next time. To me, the fact that he buckled up and went back for more on that was like, I don't know. I was a big fan of how Mikkel's approaching that, not really going for the slope style ride, the same run each time. I think that giving points for riders that switch it up each run, because as we both know, riding in the backcountry, it's like, if you're not able to ride that course a few times, like a slope style course, because you're not allowed to in natural selection, to be able to calculate speed when you've never hit something on national TV is crazy.
And one of the best examples of that is when the everyman Dave Marks decided to go into the course after, I don't know if you saw this footage, but Dave is a freaking G. He hit like that. Remember that jump that was kind of the diving board that was kind of at the bottom? And I think Gigi did the front
seven melon
over it first time. So Dave just hits it at the end of the day and sends that thing to the bottom of the valley. Like, and
Austin
it was just full hand. Yeah, basically like did a sweeten off of that thing. And like, you're like, well, that's the everyman right there. Like just dropping, and it just gives you a good idea of how, like the best snowboarders in the world, especially in the backcountry, the ability to quickly assess a distance that needs to be traveled at a ratio. Like you're doing physics in your head that you don't know you're doing. You're just looking at it being like, I should probably go from here. I should be good. Like that kind of quick computation in your head is phenomenal. And I think it's like, it's something I just remember when we would go and I was riding big jumps all the time, I would listen to my jacket and I would listen to the snow and the sound of the snow. It was weird, like this weird, like everyone talks about flow state, but it's like I was listening for audio cues that maybe other people weren't listening to. And it's something that I'm fascinated by, because especially when the jumps start to get really big, like you guys in the backcountry, where you have to clear shit in order to live. And and you're like, I need to make it like that. What's that jump? Perfect jump. It's in Whistler.
Yeah, we hit it this year, and a guy, I mean, Matt Belzil, who's hit it before and has filmed a phenomenal backside 10, one of the best clips probably I would say ever filmed on it. He did a back five on it this year, came up short, and like we were saying about the back five in the backcountry, because you're blind on a big jump, thought he had it, came up 5 feet short, and he was still holding the grab because he thought he had it and broke his arm.
Yeah, I hit that jump only once and got Jack in the Box off of it.
I hit it once and I fucking word up, buddy. Same.
Boing. Yeah, just fully like, oh God. And like, this thing's way bigger than I thought. It's some people just like Travis Rice has that really innate ability to, like, I think McMorris has it as well. And like all the, like Sage and all the best guys that it just doesn't look like it's even a problem for him,
Yeah, I'm gonna throw my buddy Chris Rasman. Rasman's ability to handle big jumps, because I film with him, and I was a super park kid, And then I went to the backcountry, and a lot of the time I just spend it sitting on my snowmobile, scared to snowmobile again because I just get stuck and I'd have anxiety all day about avalanches. But
Right there with
I
you.
mean, you would see people like, Ika and Arrow and everybody filming out there. And I mean, you really get to see who just has that gift.
Yeah.
And it's been wild to Razman. I hope that he gets on a company that pays him so much money so I can just see what his full potential is, because he can't live up to his full potential because he does not have the sponsor dollars. But if he had the Travis Rice helicopters, I
Right.
don't think for a second he couldn't film a Travis Rice. Maybe not level, but like on that where people would be like, this is mind blowing.
Yeah, I think that, Rice knows that. I think hopefully he'll get to cruise with Rice a little bit. Austin Sweeten's another
Yeah.
one. Blake Paul.
Travis, Austin. Austin's a little bit more on that Nicholas Gigi flow tip. As
Hmm.
far as like guys I want to see go like balls to the walls, big charging, hit something that's just like so big that you're just like, holy shit. I think Sage, Travis, and Chris Rasmussen should
Yeah.
go and hit a something together.
Like it's just going like those jumps where you're like, why? Like,
Yeah, it's like
why?
Chad's Gap, but like 2022 styles. Like, like the one that John Jay in the Art of Flight or whatever does the back 10 double on when he
Hmm.
was still on form, and you can see when he's
Oh yeah, with a
his
helicopter. Like,
board is
yeah.
all like warping because he's going so fast. Speaking of your jacket flapping, holy shit.
And it's just like, those kind of jumps. I mean, I've definitely been in my day, like at the top of something really scary, especially like Super Park, where you're like, dude, what? Like, you go down underneath it and you sit there and you look at it. And then you stand on top of it and you look over the knuckle. And then you stand on the knuckle and you look back up at the jump. And then you look at it going up the lift like 4 times. And then it's time for you to go.
And Pat Bridges is like, it's open. Todd,
Yeah,
drop.
it's open. And you're asking some dude half your size how fast to go. Like, how fast should I go? He's like, just point from here. And then, yeah, totally. And then you hit it and you fly to a different zip code. Like,
oh, I know. I followed this guy in at Super Park probably 10 years ago. Yeah, probably 10 years ago now. My third or fourth one. And the first 2 dodged every bullet you could possibly imagine. I rode so well, didn't knuckle anything, hit all the biggest jumps, and I crushed it. I was so proud of myself. Like you were saying about like, stuck in third. And then that one day you crack the code and get into first. That's what it felt like for me to be like, I can ride these big jumps and I'm good at it.
Yeah, it's a different, like, yeah, to just
My
mentally get over that.
I went in for a cheeseburger, totally forgot about the sunshine. So everything got super warm, all the salt before they resalted. And I go to the big jump I've been hitting all day. And my filmer's like, you want to hit this thing? I'm like, you bet. Drop in from the drop in, same line, back 7. And I'm in the air and I pop and I think I'm doing it so good. And I'm like, and I'm probably listening to some rap song. I'm listening to like Baby. And I'm just like, I'm the best ever. Everyone's gonna notice me. And then whack, knuckle, break my tailbone, straight to the hospital.
Oh my God. Yeah, I never, yeah, I don't know, dude. It's like that, like when jumps started to become like you're looking off of the deck and being like, dude, I've never gone this fast. I don't want to go this fast on a snowboard to hit this jump. And why do I think that I'm going to be in control when I leave this lip? Like, is there, and Bridges is the devil on your shoulder being like, no pressure, but if you don't hit this today, you're not coming back tomorrow. And then you think about guys like
pressure,
like Hardingham
was in his Super Park prime when I was going there. He was, if you did anything wrong, the jumps and the hips and everything got so big at Super Park that he had to be so gnarly. Because if somebody was Miller flipping off of the hip and screwing up the rut, or like side slipping up 100-foot jump and putting a bunch of speed wobbles in the takeoff, it's like someone could die. It's like those jumps, the 2000 to 2015 when Super Park kind of fizzled out, were anyone who's gone and that was like an AM kid trying to prove themselves. It was nuts.
Yeah, I'm sure. And then you've got insane people, like I was going to say, like Hardingham, who just like decides that like,
jump off into
I'm
the
just
woods.
I'm going to jump into the woods. Like, that's
Lake
not a
Louise.
landing, Andrew. And then Bridges is like, yeah, we need more people like Hardingham. And then the next year you show up and there's just these fucked up takeoffs into like death. And you're like, thanks, Andrew. Like, you've just completely changed the game for the worse for all of us. Like, we're just getting like, I don't know. It's just so funny that I think it's taken a long time, but I mean, I don't feel like jumps are as big as they used to be.
No,
Like
they
I go to
chilled, dude. Everything's kind of like everything kind of got to a cap where I think people A started getting hurt, and I think the riders around my last year at Super Park was the year Videograss was kind of halfway through. And I remember my good friend Jake Kuzik was filming for them, and he was like, I was like, you can go to Super Park? And he's like, nah, I'm not like a jumper guy. Like I would go if it was like slushy and fun, but I've always kind of
yeah,
heard that it's serious. And I think Bridges one year felt like he's excluding a big group by not having like fun roller sections and stuff. And so the
yeah.
last like year or two I went to Super Park, there was a giant emphasis on having like some fun features that the team managers and the riders who were either rail riders or whatever could enjoy. And then it just kind of accelerated from there. You know what I mean? Holy Bowly started coming out, and people were like, everyone started realizing, look, let's let the big jumpers do their Red Bull shoots if they're
Hmm.
on Red Bull, and the rest of us who want to just cruise and do cool creative things, instead of just, it got kind of repetitive too, you know, from the 90s to 2015, there's 25 years of backside sevens on 80-foot jumps. You know,
Yeah,
it's like, you know,
yeah.
how it's just like, I don't know, it got kind of boring to even watch.
I hear you, and it's I think about the snowboard park that used to be at Breckenridge. It used to be like it was like the freeway snowboard park that was like 3 70-foot jumps in a row, and like yeah, that's what we hit because that's where our game was at that point. But like, how does like a kid who's like coming up like wants to like snowboard, like here you go, here's your 70-footer, you hit it
That's me.
once.
And then I would
Yeah,
just launch off of it, bruise my heel, and then sit in my
mm.
house watching your video parts, waiting for the day that my
It
stupid ankle would heal.
sucks.
It
That
sucks.
sucks. There's no way that, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I'm so thankful that snowboard parks have been, I guess inspired by like Peace Park from Danny Davis and the Holy Bowly and the guy like what they're doing at Woodward or like the flowy, like fun flowy parks.
Yeah.
It's so being like an older guy that like I still love to jump. I want to do 360s and 720s. I just don't want to go from here to like another
The
town.
moon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Like
just want to be able to see my landing as I take off.
like when I think it was Chris Roach at the Trans World Awards when he got the Legend Award was saying that snowboarding could go in two directions, either aerial skiing or we could go into, and then he gave this like wave like motion with his hand, insinuating that we should probably start focusing on having a little bit more like rollers to butter on and
Yeah,
stuff. And I think when that was, I don't know when that exactly was, but it was interesting because the last 5 or 6 years, you go into the park, I think they've done such a good job of not excluding the old guys who do want to shred
yeah,
the park, but just don't want to hit, like you said, a jump and land in a small village. You know, they're
yeah.
just over it.
Yeah, it's like I still like to hit bigger jumps, but I do like the way they have like these shark fin takeoffs now, where it's poppy, but it's not like you don't have to clear a bunch of distance. You can still feel like you can get a solid snap and you can get a solid grab and you feel like you're hovering, which I do like those. And I do like, you know, I still want to hit decent sized jumps. I just, like you said, I don't want to have to hit something anymore where if my speed is off by just a smidge, I'm just body bagged. Like
Yeah, exactly.
that's
Kids,
not
kids
cool.
are kids are taking care of dad on the couch.
Yeah. No, thank you. No,
Well,
thank
it's
you.
funny. Your era too is like they would have a mound of snow. They would groom the landing. They would have a mound of snow for the takeoff, and they would groom the takeoff. And then, other than that, there'd be just chunder blocks everywhere.
Oh yeah. You were
Now it's like the
jacked.
entire every angle of the jump, the takeoff. There's like micro hips and transitions everywhere. So it's like if you don't even want to hit the jump, you can do like a back disaster on the takeoff.
Yeah, I mean, the options are definitely there. I mean, at one point in snowboarding coming up, like gaps were in, so it was like straight shaved.
Kurt Westell.
Yeah, like A to B. Like if there is no other plan, so you would basically over jump stuff a lot because you didn't want to bug on a windshield on the back part of the landing. So
Abs
you would,
gap yourself.
yeah, totally. You just want
Tanner
to,
Hall.
I'm going over this thing. I don't want to, so it's different. I'm glad that it's evolved in the way that it has. And it just makes people like me and everyone else that's on this age train we're all going to experience it at some point, and it's cool that that's the direction that it's going in.
What about this? You know, you spend your whole life devoted to snowboarding, in a time where I think magazines are losing a little bit of their clout. I would say you got one of the coolest awards ever, and at a time when that award still meant so much in snowboarding. You get the Legend Award at Transworld in 2017, which I was actually in the audience for, which was so. I think that's like the coolest pat on the back. What did that feel like?
Dude, it was insane because I don't know, it was one of those surreal moments where I had seen who had been awarded as a legend, previous people that I held in the highest regard. Um, it is insane. It's to be recognized by, by your peers, by the magazines, by the people within the industry to be, quote unquote, a legend is rad. And it's like, and it's even more special to me now that Transworld is gone. The snowboarder is gone. So to have this commemorative thing, I hope that Slush magazine continues that tradition. I I think that the snowboard awards, whether whoever's running the title sponsorship of, they need to continue because it really does. It's a gathering of the tribe where you can sit there and honor people, and it's not for money. It's for accomplishments and like what you've done, for your career or for that season, and
For the
is it
sport as a whole. I mean, like
right?
I think that it's a pat on the back for people who've gone above and beyond in paying their dues. You know what I mean? Those people have bug on a wall. Those people have blown their knees. They've gone through shitty relationships. They've almost lost their shirt, their houses. I mean, people who've done it as long as you guys have been through the ringer, and to still be boarding and filming, video parts. And I mean, even in your like later years, like DC Mountain Lab stuff, it's like, 25, 30-year career. It's like, it's kind of just such a nice way for snowboarding to be like, fuck yeah, Todd, thanks for everything that you've done for snowboarding, which has
I mean it
inspired millions of people to pick up a snowboard and slide around on a piece of wood and fucking laugh with their friends.
because bottom line, I mean, you nailed it. But it's when you strip away all the freaking glamour and who's got the video part and Instagram and like who's posting up what clip, the rawest essence of snowboarding is where I'm at right now. Like, I like to snowboard because it feels freaking rad to ollie on a snowboard, or to like, grab a front side air or do a back side air or just half cab off a roller. Like, that's where I'm at. And I'm completely happy. I don't go to the ski resort and thinking like I've got some trick agenda or some line agenda. Like, and you just strip all that away, and it took a little while for me to get there because if once you're on top for a while and you start to like the smell of your own farts, for lack of a better way to describe it, like you
Totally.
start to buy into your own shit, you start to like ego really comes into play, and it takes a little while for you to separate ego from the pure enjoyment of why you started snowboarding in the first place. And that's where I'm at right now. Like, these trips where I get to go on with the Quicksilver, like the younger Quicksilver team, or just going to Holy Bully and seeing all these super talented riders doing incredible uh transfers and things, and just, it's so rad. Like, it's just freaking rad. Like, I just feel like a little kid again, and it's killer.
Yeah.
My back really hurts, but like, I freaking love it.
It's
It's
I
just,
also feel that the older generation right now is there was like an expiry date on snowboarders back in the day. Unless you were the top 1%, there was an expiry date. Like if
yeah.
you would send to your team manager how old you were, and you would be terrified that they would respond, you're kind of on our chopping block. You're 20, you're done. 25, you're way too old. 30,
Mm.
you don't have a hope in hell in getting sponsored or having a
UC
career at 30.
Oxenden.
Oh,
UC Oxenden was like, he was, and I think about, it's a great thing that you're talking about. UC had an expiration date on him, and he was booted out of snowboarding from Burton when he was peaking. He had just dropped one of the sickest video parts of all time, encompassing all kinds of different riding. And Burton was like, "Yeah, you don't fit our age graph. We need to make room." And it's Yusei was just like, fuck you. Like, I'm just not, I don't even want to snowboard anymore. And I don't know, it's surfing does a really good job of honoring the legends. Like, they do a phenomenal job of honoring like what they call the uncles that came before, that paved the way. Skating does a really good job of like Hosoi and Andrew Reynolds and all of these, Jamie Jamie Thomas, like all of these people, Tony Hawk, that paved the way. They're revered, they are held pedestal. Jeff Grosso, like these dudes, like these are the reason that you get to do it the way that you do it now. Snowboarding is getting better at it, but snowboarding would eat its old. Put it.
They were absolutely terrible at it, and I noticed it from a young age because like I mentioned, I loved skating, and I always felt like skating was like, I was obsessed with Toy Machine as a kid, and Ed Templeton was like the god. And at that point, he was already kind of like chilling, but like every skate brand had like their goat that like didn't need to do shit anymore, because it's like, yeah, he might have a kickflip in this movie, and that's all we need of him. And snowboarding like really didn't have that. It was like just like young kids. I've also heard from K2 and Ride came up here a few years ago to do their global sales meetings, and it was interesting to hear some insight on how the age demographic in snowboarding back in the day used to be 18 to 22 to 25. That's who they were trying, like that was their target market, and it's switched now from 25 to 35. Like that's like the main group of people that are buying snowboards. And I just feel like that group is inspired by, some of them are inspired by Gibbers. Some of them are inspired by Tim Eddy's carving. Some of them are inspired by, Kazu Kokobo. And it's just like, there is no, have the old dudes, have the young guys, and then have your Vans did a really good job of keeping like Brian Iguchi, Jamie Lynn, and never really having that, like, we're going to get rid of you, because their Van skate side already did that with some legends. Right. And I think that it's so cool when a brand does that. Like, when I kind of heard Devin wasn't on DC, I was like, dude, give Devin the hall pass for DC. I was anyway, just maybe just being a Canadian dude or whatever. But like, to me, Devin was like the grandfather goat of like spinning slow, like 2 decades of video parts. I was like, I would have loved to see him just incorporated with that brand for a little bit longer. But
yeah, and I think some brands do it better. Like Quicksilver, for myself.
Yeah, for you, dude.
They're really great at it, but their their roots are surf, and they understand it. And it's like, you think about like the people that own shops, and you've got these older snowboarders that maybe the people that own shops can relate to more than some kid that's in a Dustbox movie. Exactly. You know what I mean? And so they send me in to go high five with the guy and kind of pitch the outerwear to him and just shoot the shit. Because you're a shop owner, you're not going to shoot the shit with a 19-year-old kid. It's just not.
Well, they're insecure and they have anxiety still.
Right.
You know what I
mean?
It's like, and it's like tough to say, but you send you in there, you're like, I'm Todd. I was insecure, and now I'm just Todd. What's up? You guys want to buy some Quicksilver stuff?
Yeah. They send you in like, God, we can't get these guys to buy. Usually they give you a credit card and say, take them out to dinner. Like that's, but it's, there's a time and a place. And especially, I think, more importantly now than ever, where this whole circus that we've been in for so long is now coming back again to what it was in the early 90s, within fashion, within attitudes, and what's happening on the hill.
Attitude, for sure.
Who better to talk about that than the people that were freaking there?
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a lot of people that are in positions at big brands, big endemic brands, snowboard companies that are too young to get it, and they're going to be the ones that try to fake it, and you're going to see it being faked. And it's there's a lot of people out there that were there legitimately, and it will come from a more real place. And I think that's, you want to talk about snowboarders being core. What's more core than supporting the people that got you to where you are?
Yeah, especially those big companies who've, the owners and the majority shareholders are, sitting in their houses in the Beverly Hills and stuff. It's like, most snowboarders can't even put a plate of food on the table. It's like, you know, if somebody's barely able to eat for 20 years, but they've been on your brand the whole time, the least you could do is pat them on the back and be like, you know what, we're going to give you gear and give you somewhat of a little contract for the remainder of your life.
Yeah, I agree with you with Devin. I think I think DC was probably put in a really weird position. I hope it wasn't Ika that had to cut him, because I know Ika's the team manager now, which would fucking suck to have to cut like one of your best friends.
I think it was. I didn't hear that from Ika or Devin though. I just heard through the grapevine, but
That would be
because they're like
devastating.
brothers.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, I definitely agree. I think that Devin should be on the team for life, whether it's as an ambassador. You can go and film, you can not go and film, but can you come to this photo shoot and just, or can you go in the back? How about go in the backcountry with the young kids and show them what to do?
Yeah.
Show them how not to get stuck. Show them where to build the jump, because there's a lot of these kids that are coming up that like they don't have mentors, and it's a big problem in life right now. And it's like there's not enough mentoring going on to that new generation that's coming up. And I do think that the snowboard industry as a whole could benefit from some positive mentoring.
Yeah, and mentors that have been in snowboarding since day one and have paid their dues, and they've been in those kids' shoes before, and they've been dropped, and they've been injured, and they've fought with their parents over trying to snowboard, and they've lost girlfriends over it. And it's like, I think that these and boyfriends or whatever, and these kids, like you just said, I think there's a lack of mentorship. And if brands have someone like you, like a goat on the team, it just like it truly like it just helps shape the brand in a lot more than one way. And the brand needs to not look at it such as like a numbers thing, like we're paying this guy this, but like what are we getting out of it? It's like you're getting a lot more than what you can see.
Yeah,
Like it's a lot.
you're getting history, you're getting clout. And it's like, I think another maybe benefit of having a mentor is maybe to give some of these kids a backbone, and like just learn that you know you're not such a special little flower, and talking shit is part of the game. And don't get super butthurt when someone starts ripping on you, because it's just part of it. It's like, it's, I don't know, like I feel like the whole big brother thing has gone away in snowboarding, because everyone is so safe and protected. And when we all came up, there was always the older brother, kind of like, and I mean this in not like, not in a real family sort of way, but just like there was always the older kid that was like kind of had his finger on your head, and like
Sean Palmer.
Totally, just kind of a dickhead. Like there was always kind of a dickhead around, and like you just grew to kind of like love. It was like a lovable dickhead that was there to like.
My team manager when I rode for DC, who I think you probably know, Nick Olson, was kind of like that for me.
Oh yeah.
He was such like a shit, would put me in a headlock kind of like vibe. But
yes,
like I looked up to him. Like he wasn't only my team manager and my friend, but like I never had a brother growing up. And I always just kind of like I kind of have that relationship with my K2 team manager, not very much like an older brother, but just like a lot of respect for how he's running things.
Yeah, like someone that's going to give you a wedgie, but someone that's also going to be there like a shoulder for you to like,
and smack you in the back of the head when you're being an idiot. Like
exactly. Like just be that older brother, right? Because older brothers, it's the good with the bad. They're dickheads, but they're also like they look out for you. They're very protective. And I think that's for me when I look at like what mentoring is in snowboarding, and where the way that I come at it is kind of like that. Like I talk a lot of shit to kids, but it's all like within love. If I'm giving you shit, it means that I'm taking time out of my day to craft things in my head to give you attention.
Totally.
It's just how I grew up. It's like, it's never mean, but it's like I will give you shit about your kit or your snowboard, or like, whoa,
or the special blend pants that
yeah, totally. Like, oh, your board must have been awful hot. You let go of that pretty early. Like, just or like, just stuff
just
like
a little
that.
sizzle.
Like, yeah, just a little sizzle. Like, oh yeah, you guys must have invented that rail trick, except for blah 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 invented it in 1992.
Yeah, except for
like just
Paul did that in.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it's so funny, but
steak
like
and lobster.
It's great. I love it. Like
I think Desiree and Jess Kamira do a really good job for the younger generation of girls right now. I mean, Leanne and the Runway Films and Full Moon definitely for the backcountry girls a few years ago, but Jess and Desiree, I think a lot of girls really look up to them. I mean, Jess has taken so many girls under her wing and has made like the Uninvited, which is like just a giant group of girls who are fortunate enough to have a video production to film for because of Jess's hard work. So
I really look forward to watching Jess's movie. Like, I think, you know, I didn't know her. I've never really even like hung out with her.
You'd click. She's awesome.
But just following her story, and you know, she seems like a shit, and I like people that can be shits. Like, it's just like, I don't know, if you're not, I don't trust you unless you're giving me shit. Like, that's like my bullshit. Unless you're kind of, you know, flinging some shit at me, I kind of don't trust you. Like, that's kind of the way it is. Like, you need to talk shit. Unless you're talking shit, don't trust you.
All right. On that note, thank you for coming on the show. I got 4 last little questions for you, and then you can get out and go surfing.
Actually, Griffin Seabird's coming over my house for something.
No way! What a boss!
I know, I got old Griff out here. We had like in the water this morning. So we went surfing this morning. It was myself, Ika, Mark McMorris, Casey, Mark McMorris's age. It was just like, it's so funny. This is the time of year when all the shreds show up in Encinitas. I think Robin is actually here.
Sick.
Down the street too, so it'd be fun afternoon.
Well, enjoy your surf if you go out there. All right, so over the last 5 to 10 years, who were just 2 of your faves that inspired you the most, you would say?
I think inspiration wise, style wise, was Chris Roach, 100%. And then also Trevor Graves, who was the first person to really point a camera at me and kind of give me an idea of what work ethic in front of a lens was.
Cool. Like, great plug. Advice for the next generation.
The advice, oh wow. Enjoy it right now, because these careers come and go so fast. It's a blink of an eye. You're going to be 51 years old, and I tell you that because it seems like it was a blink of an eye ago that I was in your shoes and I had the world by the balls and nothing could touch me. And now I can't touch my toes without pain. So like, just be there and just enjoy every second, and let shit roll off your back. Don't hold grudges and don't burn bridges.
That's a good one for anybody, not even the next generation of kids who are trying to film. I think anyone can have a little takeaway from that. Other than snowboarding, what are some things you really enjoy to do?
Like I said, I'm a super nerd. I am a science fiction dork when it comes to like anything, books, movies, just theories.
Bob Lazar.
Yeah, no, I'm not down the Bob Lazar. But yes, I have. I've dabbled.
His Joe Rogan podcast is crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And like, and full sidebar right now, but like his Joe Rogan, like after I watched that Joe Rogan, I was like, why would this guy fucking lie? And it's way too detailed. Like,
yeah,
it's just so
he's either a mastermind psychopath who's made up this story. Because psychopaths do tell themselves, like if they murdered somebody, they'll tell themselves long enough that they didn't murder them, and then they'll actually believe that to themselves. Mm-hmm. So he's either like full gone psychopath or that shit happened. Either way, I liked the story just for the story.
I feel like this shit happened. Like anyway.
I believe him.
Yeah. So I love surfing. I skateboard as much as my body will let me. I'm a massive fan of skateboarding still. I can't physically do it as much as I used to do it. I can't.
Favorite skater out right now?
Favorite skater right now? I really, really, really like watching Carl Berglund skateboard. He's a park skater from Sweden. He's just like, I don't know. There's so many really good park skaters now, and they're all so flowy, and they do the craziest shit, and the transfers and so first try, and like, I don't know.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I like that Tiago dude. He's like super G, like kind of reminds me of like Stevie Williams kind of back in the day or something.
Deshaun's insane. Like and also like these kids that are like can do everything. Not only can they street skate, but they're also like, they're just as good on any transition.
The freaks of all nature. My last question is, do you believe in aliens?
Do I believe in aliens? I think you'd be pretty naive not to.
I know it always just leads into a good discussion, but we already know you're a sci-fi nerd.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Like there's no freaking way. Like I think you'd be pretty self-centered to think that we're like on this freaking miracle of random chance that life even exists here in this vastness of nothing. Like, and if you really think it's a vastness of nothing, like we have no conception of what space is because we only know because we're these small things.
There's
And
nothing.
this is what we think is vast space, which to like another species could be like, oh, Earth, that's like next door. Like, you know, because like to like an ant, your next door neighbor is like miles away. So who knows? Like, I don't know. I just think, you know, that we could all be living inside a giant's toenail. Who knows?
Okay, and this is the bonus question.
All right.
Do you know Zach Galifianakis?
I don't. I mean, at one point, I would consider Zach Galifianakis a friend, and this was like near the year 2000. But you know, I've reached out to him on Instagram a few times and things like that, and some of the other people from Out Cold I've talked to on Instagram a bunch, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it was fun. Remember that?" But like Galifianakis, you know, he probably doesn't even run his own Instagram account. But I did give him snowboards back in the day.
No way.
Yeah, we correspond. He's fully snowboarded. Probably still does snowboard.
No way. For anyone who doesn't know, Todd, who we didn't even touch base on, was also in one of my favorite Hollywood movies when I was a child, Out Cold, which I went to the theater and watched.
Mm-hmm. You were one of 8.
No way. The theater was packed.
Really?
Yeah, the theater was packed when I was there.
Must have been a Canadian thing, because I feel like
Canadian thing, dude. It's snow and mountains. Are you serious?
Out Cold didn't find its legs until it hit Comedy Central, and then it was on every day, like Ghostbusters 2.
Ghostbusters 2? I've never even seen Ghostbusters.
What? Ghostbusters 2 was like on TV. I swear to God, for a good portion of time, it was on every time I turned the TV on.
Oh, Braveheart and Die Hard and Rush Hour are the Canadian ones.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
Thanks for having me on the show, dude.
You bet, dude.
Glad we made this work.
Yeah, we did it this time.
All right. Thanks, buddy. We'll see you later.
Thanks again.
Peace.
Peace, Todd.